Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Today we are present for the first investigative hearing on Valley View or Orange County Nursing Home. I would just like to read into the record the resolution that has called for this investigative committee to be established and to begin these meetings that we're beginning today. The resolution of the Orange County Legislature, pursuant to Orange County Charter, Article 2, Section 202Q, and the Orange County Legislative Manual, Section 4G, establishing a special legislative committee to conduct an investigation and subpoena witnesses, administer oaths, and require the production of books, papers, and other evidence necessary or material with respect to the Valley View Nursing Home and Rehabilitation Center. This committee today that we begin with is a fact-finding mission. We are really calling people forward to simply have the facts given to us, to have a full understanding of all information, anything that we believe may have been very slow in coming, may not have been in our hands in the proper amount of time. We've been given a lot of information. You can see today more information has been given. We need to make some very important decisions in this county, and the decisions that we'll be making about the future of our nursing home, I think, is relevant to the information that we believe we're receiving now. The decisions that come forth will be dependent on the truth and the facts, and that is the reason why we're going forth. We'll be swearing people under oath. I would like to now say that we have scheduled the first meeting for noon, and because it didn't advertise a few minutes before, we need to take just a couple moments to speak with our attorney, just for private reasons, just between client and attorney. It will not be long. It's just we did not feel that it was the correct thing to do before the meeting. Would you like to reference this further, Mr. Jakobowitz?
No, it's... the reason is that we received a letter, and the committee received a letter dated July 9th, yesterday, and there are some legal issues raised in there that we have not had an opportunity to discuss, and I think it would be helpful to the committee to have the benefit of that before we start the actual testimony. So it's an attorney-client privilege matter, and it shouldn't take much more than 5 minutes, as you've indicated, but I think it's appropriate that we talk about some issues raised in this letter as attorney-client.
Shall we go? I think we could step aside. Oh, I'm sorry. Could I have a motion, please?
I make a motion that we convene to executive session for consultation with our attorneys.
Second? All in favor? Opposed? call the first witness, Mary Sprightly, to come forward.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to come out of executive session.
All in favor? Opposed? I would like the witness to stand. Could you please raise your right hand? Do you hereby swear or affirm under penalty or perjury that the testimony that you're about to give in this matter relating to the future of the Valley View Nursing Home and Rehabilitation Center shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Golden, you say you have a statement to make. Want that on the record now so we know where you're coming from on these issues?
That'd be appropriate.
Yeah, okay. So I would recommend that he proceed. He's not under oath, but he's an attorney and he has a statement.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee, Mr. Kopowitz. For the record, my name is Richard Golden, Burke, Mealy, and Golden, and I am appearing as attorney for the executive branch of county government, including Mary Spratlin, in connection with her appearance here before this committee. On June 25th, I delivered a letter to your attorneys, which was distributed that day to your committee, in which I requested on behalf of the executive branch and all of its county employees that there be cooperation in the manner of the production of documents so that the documents that the committee wanted could be identified and produced. The letter also requested that the committee cooperate as to the scheduling of the appearances of any county employees so that their personal and work schedules could be accommodated. And it also requested that you provide me with the topics of your questions and the related documents for each of the employees to appear before you so that they could be prepared and give you all of the information that you desire. These reasonable requests have been ignored. I have received no response to that letter other than the service of your subpoenas and a statement that the position of this committee is that county employees should be warned that the failure to appear and testify before you would constitute criminal contempt of the legislature in violation of New York's penal law and for obstructing governmental administration and official misconduct. It is beyond the pale that this committee should take such an overt and threatening posture to its county employees. Yesterday, I also delivered to your committee a letter requesting that the subpoenas that were that day being served upon county employees be withdrawn or modified so that the county employees that were being threatened with criminal prosecution could, instead, simply appear before your committee to discuss the issues of your concern in an unsworn format, as has been done routinely and without exception since the formation of Orange County government. I ask now that the committee respond on the record as to whether they will withdraw or modify the subpoenas so as to allow county employees to appear before you and answer your questions without having to be sworn under oath. I will also ask that my letters of June 25th and July 9th be entered into the record. In addition, I'm advising the committee that we object to all of the subpoena's demands for documents, as the demands are patently ambiguous, overly broad, and impossible to even approach compliance, especially in the time frame demanded. All of the committee's subpoenas demand that each subpoenaed person produce to the committee in less than a day or so each and every book, each and every piece of paper, and each and every other piece of evidence that is within their custody and control that is material to the existence or operation of Valley View from the beginning of the facility to the present. This is a demand for documents that is designed in a manner to achieve a violation of the subpoena. We ask that the subpoenas be modified so that the documents demanded are reasonable as to the type of documents that you want, reasonable as to a time period relevant to your inquiry, and reasonable as to a time frame that will allow for their search and production. There's been voluminous documents relevant to committee's inquiry that have been recently provided by the county executive to the legislature. Further, if there's any other document or group of documents that you desire, we have requested that you identify them so that we can act on the request. It is obvious that given the time frame, this committee is proceeding without having read the documents that have already been provided to it. This is most unfortunate and telling. Thank you.
I don't think a war of words is in the interest of moving forward in the spirit of cooperation. I can generally say I disagree with pretty much everything that Mr. Gold said. There were exchanges, and I'll make sure they're part of the record, so that it's a complete record. Good morning. I'm Gerald Jacobowitz. I'm the attorney for the legislature and the committees in connection with this matter. The committee is here today to question you about matters relating to Valley View. The purpose of the questioning is just to gather information. We're not here to try to trick you or to confuse you or fool you. If you don't understand a question, please say so, and we'll make every attempt to rephrase it to make the question clearer. You understand that?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm going to assume that you understand the question unless you indicate otherwise. Is that agreeable?
Yes.
I'm also going to assume that you're answering the question completely and accurately as possible unless you indicate otherwise. Is that fair?
Yes.
Before we begin, I want to ask whether you're suffering from any medical condition or you're under the influence of any medication or other substance that imparts your memory or ability to testify truthfully today.
Ms. Bradley, thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it. And please understand that even calling forth certain employees of Valley View is just informational. I want you to know that. In fact, I'm really looking more of maybe almost put in a narrative form rather than just questions. And what I would like to know is how long you've been at Valley View. What is the position you hold? I'd like to experience what it is that you do daily in your job. And I would also like to understand if you have been there before OAS, our management company, came in, if there's been differences that you have seen. I would just, like you free to just share some background with us if you could. If you begin again with the time that you have, the time that you've worked for Valley View, your title, the position that you hold, and then I will interject again if if I have something that I would like to further know. Is that?
I'd just like to object generally as a form of question. In order for Ms. Fratley to know, because she's under oath, that she's answering your questions fully and completely, as Mr. Kovitz has asked her to do, I think we need to ask the question at a time so that it can't be later charged that she failed to answer part of the question. So it's not that difficult to do if we could just ask the question, she'll respond to it, if you have a follow-up, and just keep following up with the questions.
Let me break that apart then. I was trying to make it friendlier to you and less attorney threatened, you might say. So again, if you would like to tell me how long you've been working at Valley View.
I've been at Valley View for 25 years.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. So I don't need to ask then if you were there before the current management company.
I was.
You were there. What is your title?
I'm a senior clerk.
A senior clerk. And what falls under your purview as a senior clerk?
I worked in the Department of Plant Operations for 23 years, and I was moved from plant operations to admissions. I'm currently in the admissions department. I was moved abruptly without being told why. At that time, I was placed in the admissions office. The sheriffs greeted me, 2 sheriffs and a detective, and I was placed under criminal investigation.
Excuse me, but I'm not understanding when this happened.
This happened, I was in the department for 23 years.
23 years, and then without any notification,
Moved from
you were
plant
moved to
operations.
admissions.
Yes.
And you work with Pat Matero in
Yes, I do.
admissions.
Yes, I do.
Are the jobs very different?
Totally.
Totally different. And it was done without warning.
Yes.
The plant maintenance, it's my understanding, I can't remember the man's name, but there's someone that was retired. I think it was there for many years in plant maintenance.
Fray Fuller.
Yes, that's the name.
I worked under Fray Fuller.
Oh, you did, okay. Were you working in that position when the current plant manager came in under OAS?
Yes.
You were. Do you happen to know when the current manager came?
The current manager came in February, I believe, of 2011.
February 2011.
The current.
And how long did you remain in the position with that current manager?
Till October of 2011.
Okay, so give me the dates again.
The current plant operations director
Mhm.
came in February of 2011.
Mhm.
I was removed from the department in October of 2011.
So you did have some overlapping experience at that time. Did you find a drastic change in the department?
Yes.
Was it because of the new plant manager, or was it because of OAS, the management company?
Before the current director of plant operations, there was a plant operations before that, prior to Fray Fuller leaving. And that manager was there for 7 years under OAS. He left in May of 2010. We were without a director of plant operations until February of 2011.
So you were without anyone.
Exactly.
Okay. And who was doing the work?
Myself?
You were doing it.
Yes. All the paperwork, everything.
So it was maintenance contracts. Is that what you mean by all the paperwork?
Invoicing, ordering, contracts.
Did you find the manner in which it was running had changed?
Once the new director came on board?
Well, I guess I'm looking at what happened to the period of time that it seemed to be no director on board. That left you.
Yes. And the maintenance.
Did it change? I guess I'm saying, did that change your workload?
Yes.
It did change your workload. So was it more demanding?
Yes.
Did you have any idea when the new manager would be coming, or you didn't? It was day by day?
Had no idea. We asked repeatedly and was told nothing.
So communication was lacking, you would say.
Yes.
Did you find the plant, the way it was functioning, actual day-to-day functioning, was being affected?
Pretty much.
How about when the new manager was brought on? Did you find it improve, stay the same, or worsen?
Stayed the same.
Stayed the same. So it continued to function under a new plant manager.
Yes,
Was the new plant manager an experienced manager?
I have no knowledge of that.
Did the new plant manager have a background in the maintenance of plants, etc.?
I have no knowledge of that. No one ever told me anything.
And then you left then within 8 months or
Yes.
a period of time. Did you feel that you were being moved for a purpose?
Yes.
Was it, did you find any kind of a conflicting piece of your job once a new person came in? In other words, were you allowed to do the same job, or were you being rested on more heavily?
I was continuing to do the same thing that I'd always done when there was no plant manager.
When there was no plant manager, okay. You don't know if the new plant manager, you said, had a background and preparation to come into this position? No.
No knowledge of that. No one ever said anything.
And when you went to the admissions department, this was all new for you. Did you feel that you had been trained, or you understood the changes in your job?
Well, no one ever explained anything to me from the day I was moved. And administration has never spoken to me before I was moved, when I was moved, until present day. They've never said one word to me. And when I came into the admissions department, I was trained by Pat Matero, and I have no problem.
Have you ever been evaluated in your position?
Several times.
Under each, you gave me a few different names of people that you worked for. Have you been evaluated in the time that OAS has been in management?
Yes.
You have.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Puffy.
Thank you, Mrs. Sproutley, for coming and interrupting your routine. I have just a couple of questions in your position in admissions. It mentioned that Pat Matero had trained you in, well, maybe I guess the first thing I should, what part of admissions did you work in? Was it clerical? Did you interview potential clients coming in, go over their ability to pay, Medicare, Medicaid, personal property that they might be turning over to the county? Could you give us a little background on what your day-to-day activity was in admissions?
I'm clerical support for admissions. What I do is I enter all the information. Once they decide on who's coming in, they give the information to me. I enter it into the computer system, and I go over the paperwork with the resident. I go to their room. I discuss everything to them concerning their short-term stay. They sign the forms, and I pretty much witness it, bring it back, make copies. It's distributed to each department within the facility.
You interview a resident, well, a client before, I would say a person is a client, potential client, prior to becoming a resident, before admission. So when you're interviewing them, asking them, do you ask them what type of payment they're going to be making as part of your job, or were you just data entry after the fact?
I'm data entry after the fact.
Thank you. And how long were you working in that function as admissions?
I've been in admissions since October 2011.
There were only a few months, it seems, that
Right.
probably. In the training for data entry clerk, if you will, and then just explaining, in your short time there, were you able to see, I guess my big question is that the people who become residents at Valley View, that they were, well, word this this correctly, that they were interviewed correctly in placement, or did you not get a sense, or that wasn't a part of your job, that the interviews and the information that they were giving was basically the best that it could be? Yeah, okay. My questioning evolves around the work that you're not doing, and I guess I'm asking for an opinion, and that's really not what we need. Hey, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Do you have any questions? Yes, Mr. Nagustakis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mary, thank you very much for coming here today. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for being helpful. I don't really have any questions. Thank you.
Mr. Smith, do you have any questions?
Thank you. Mary, again, thank you. Well, they all have for taking the time and hearing before this panel. And as the chairperson, chairwoman said, the objective is to gather facts, information to the greatest extent possible so that the county legislature ultimately can make appropriate decision as it relates to the future of Valley View. I really want to just go back in time to where your greatest experience has been, and ask of you to explain the department that you work within. As I understand it, plant operations. What is the responsibility of the Department of Plant Operations?
Plant operations is, it encompasses the maintenance department. They're pretty much responsible for the entire facility, the maintenance, everything that goes on in the facility, any repairs, ordering of equipment, any installation of equipment. They're pretty much responsible for all of that. Does include contracts.
So it's the capital facility, the structure, the mechanicals, HVAC. Is that what it is?
Yes, everything.
Does it include purchasing for the operation?
Yes, various parts.
Does it include purchasing for housekeeping and operations, service operations?
For housekeeping? No.
So the scope of the responsibility, and I'm just trying to understand this, of operations is the physical plant and the care, custody, and maintenance, both on a daily basis and a longer term, any constructual contract programs or projects would come under that, your department that you worked in.
Yes, that I worked in prior.
And you worked there for 23 years in that capacity?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I don't have any more questions.
Elmire?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Mary. Thanks for coming. When you were moved from maintenance to admissions, it sounded like they just kind of came in and literally moved you from one office to another. I'm just curious, was that a violation of your union contract, or was there any issues there? Or?
I can answer the question.
Oh, thanks.
I was told that they could move you anytime in any place they wanted to within the facility that's within your title. So I was moved. Administration never spoke to me. They never told me I was being moved. No one from administration spoke to me. Human Resources came over and told me that I was being moved. Clear your stuff out. The following, when I reported to the admissions office, I was sitting at my desk. The sheriffs came in, 2 sheriffs and 1 investigator, and told me that I was under criminal investigation. To this day, administration has never spoken to me, never said anything to me regarding it, or told me why. I did contact the sheriff's department and they said there's no case, it's closed. Administration has never come to me and spoke to me. I was humiliated, ridiculed, harassed, and no one has said a word to me to this day.
Thank you.
Could I ask you, Ms. Fraley, if were you aware then under your position in plant and maintenance of each time that, say, the administration OAS management would come before our committee and would be asking for certain capital improvements? In other words, for instance, in I guess June of 2010, they had come before the committee and they were asking, I think, for $75,000 for a water heater, $95,000 for walkways, $75,000 for parking lots. In a month later, it was another $225,000 for technology, and it seems to go on and on. Were you aware of a change in the amounts of money to maintain or to have capital improvements made? Is that something that would have been in your knowledge?
If it was in May of 2010, I was aware because I was in the department at the time.
You were there?
Yes, I was in
Yes.
the department at the time.
Okay. Would you say under OAS management that more of these kind of requests, dollar amounts, walkways, parking lots, ADA compliant doors? I'm just coming right up into the recent time. Certainly you've not been there for the most recent, but there's been many, many requests, and it's been, just to give you a little bit of background, a little bit of concern over, if we were looking, if the county was going to make a decision to privatize, there were investments that we were being asked to make in the facility. Were you aware of all of those?
Yes, I attended all the Ways and Means meetings. I was there. I heard all the requests that were being made. Human mental health and mental health meetings. I attended all those meetings since 2010. I was president. I heard them each time they asked.
Did you see a difference in what was being asked for to the previous management before OAS? Did it seem, in other words, was it unusual to begin asking for, all of these capital projects, I guess?
I couldn't say, truthfully. I couldn't say.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm Jerry Jacobowitz again, and thank you for your presence and honest answers. Am I correct that for 23 years you were involved with the vendors and purchases that related to the maintenance of the facility? In the course of that time, you became familiar with the market conditions, the vendors who were out there, their reliability, their pricing, and all those kinds of business terms of work or purchases that would be made?
Yes, as pertained to the contracts.
Excuse me?
As per the contract?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And you pretty much knew who was reliable and who was fair priced by the time you were through your 23 years?
Yes.
Now, when they removed you from that job, was your job replaced with someone else?
No.
So who then became the purchasing agent or the vendor contact for services and supplies?
I have no idea. Administration hasn't spoken to me.
From your own knowledge of what's going on there day to day when you come to work, have you heard that there's anybody who's got your job?
No. My office still remains vacant.
Yes, Mr. Pahaki.
I'm a bit perplexed because in order to maintain an operation, goods and services must be purchased. Food contract, anything other than housekeeping, which housekeeping, who is purchasing fuel oil, who is taking care of the water treatment plant, who's buying chemicals for the water treatment plant, who is ordering salt and sand for snow removal, which is around the corner. Is it safe to assume that these things are not being ordered and purchased to run, or is it that you're just not aware that they're being purchased in order for the facility to be maintained and run?
I was cut off from the department completely. I have no knowledge of what goes on.
So who would be next in command if beside you?
Well, there's the director who runs the department. I think that question would be better suited to her than me.
And who is that director of that department?
Janet Calnan?
Sorry?
Janet Calnan.
Thank you.
Mr. Pillmeyer, do you have further questions? The one thing that I'm still a bit bothered by, when you had two sheriffs, someone from the sheriff's department, and they never explained to you what those charges were, you're saying you have no idea?
Administration never explained. I was taken into the executive conference room by two sheriffs and a detective. At that time, I said, do I need a lawyer or a union rep? They said, no, it doesn't concern them. I said, okay, what is this about? At which point they began to tell me that they went through my trash when I cleaned out my office, and they went into my office and took pictures prior to me vacating the office, and that they were told that I threw away documents. I requested to say, what documents was it that I'm supposed to have thrown away? I didn't get an answer. I was told they went through the HIPAA containers and opened them up, and they found stuff in there, and they said that it was documents crucial to the facility. The sheriff investigated it, the detective investigated, they found no such documents. And it was all my stuff I had discarded because I was told to clear out. And to this day, like I said before, and I'll state it again, administration has not spoken to me or come to me. They didn't even tell me I was being moved.
Mr. Nagdasakis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mary, have you ever had any kind of disciplinary problems in your past? Anything on your record? Anything?
Can you repeat the question?
Let me try to rephrase the question. It seems to me like you're a nice person now that I've met you here. You've been a good employee probably all your life there. You don't have any kind of problems that have been documented in your work abilities at the facility?
The witness can answer the question if she wants, but I think it is highly inappropriate for the committee in a public atmosphere to ask any witness
Okay,
with respect to their
I'll withdraw
disciplinary record.
I will withdraw the question. My only reason for asking it is if there have been no problems and you've been a perfect employee, then I would question why they took that approach with sheriffs. That's all I was leading to.
I understand that, and I have not spoken with Mary with respect to her disciplinary background. I want to make it very...
I'll withdraw the question.
I just want to make it very clear that I did not interpose that objection because there is something along those lines. I just wanted to state that generally that ought to be the case with respect to all employees, and I'll defer to Mr. Jacoby.
Okay, maybe the question could be answered this way. When you were shifted from your 23-year job, for which you had extensive experience and skill and knowledge, to a new job that was totally new to you, were you given any explanation whatsoever with respect to that.
I was told that they needed someone in admissions.
My only concern was the sheriff's appearing, and that's fine. It doesn't seem to be a reason for that. My last question to you is, based on what you've seen now for the last 2 years, just your general thoughts about how the operation at Valley View is running. Is it running as well as it did in the past, or do you see any kind of decline over the last few years?
I'll object to that as well. As we've said before, and it was reiterated by statements by the committee earlier, this is to obtain facts, not just general opinions about what people may or may not think about the facility. And so I object to the question on that basis.
Mary, is there, the question that was withdrawn, of course, that Mr. Anagostakis had asked, did you feel that there was some way that you wanted to answer there? I didn't want to leave you not with the ability to say something if you felt that you had wanted to. When he, you know, I think...
I'll state a further objection only. And again, it's not dealing with Mary, it's dealing with any witness that comes. To ask that kind of question really puts somebody on the spot that if they say no, there's this implication that maybe there's something there, which is, I have no basis to ever think that that is applicable to Mary, but I just don't think it's the right forum for this. If for some reason the legislature has the ability to go into executive session at certain times to discuss certain things, I don't think it's part of this committee's charge. But there are forums for that, and I don't think that this public forum is the right place. All
right. My only concern, to be perfectly honest, was about just making her feel comfortable. That's my only concern, Mary. It was nothing further than that. I thank you. I thank you for your time.
I would just like to, for the record, before we conclude, the committee offers you another opportunity to add anything else to any of the answers that you have given, or to offer any comments that you may have on the subject matter that is the province of the committee. Have anything else you want to add or clarify?
Any other facts that you're asking about?
No.
The subpoena that you were served with is continuing, and it may be necessary to ask you to return. Would you be willing to return?
Yes.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the time you're giving us. Thank you. May I please call forward the next witness, John Burley? I didn't hear what she...
I just wanted a short.
Yes. Oh, I'm so sorry. I misunderstood you. I thought you wanted to speak for 5 minutes. You want to speak to your client? Okay, for 5 minutes. Yes, you may do that. Yes, so move. 5-minute recess. All in favor?